Well, hello everybody, Treks and Trekkers, all you lovely nerds. Welcome to a very special edition of Star Trekking with Nerdy Up North. I am your host as ever, Captain Goodwill, and I am joined by my rather lovely velour-clad Science Officer Synoiz. And this week, oh my gosh, we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, author, writer, content producer, and just all-round Trekkie. One of the most famous Trekkies, I would probably say. We are joined by Seán Ferrick. Hello, Seán.
Not to big you up at all, or anything like that.
My God, what an intro! I am definitely not one of the most famous Trekkies. There was that lady in America who attended a trial in full Starfleet uniform. That's amazing. I have yet to be either asked to be on jury duty or charged with a felony. So,
Still time.
Still, exactly. But thank you so much for having me. This is already so much fun. So thank you so much.
It is our pleasure, Seán. First and foremost, I think we're all going to ask, Graeme, have you slept this week and how are you?
Have I slept this week? No. Yeah, it's a bit crazy just being like, when someone goes like, oh, are you busy this week? And I'm like, nah, not really. And then you're like, although, and then you feel like that 2 hours I had on the sofa at one point, you're like, oh, this is heaven. Well, anyway.
I'm
doing well.
Yeah.
I'm over the pain that I was having last week and stuff. And I've got a crazy Eurovision party to do tomorrow that I developed an app for, which needs to be fully tested, but should be good. Fingers crossed, he says optimistically. But no, it should be great. I'm doing well, and I'm just excited to be here with you too.
Oh, absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. Like I said, we are here to interview the lovely Seán Ferrick on all things Star Trek, all things TrekCulture, the Closed Star podcast, and everything else in between. So first and foremost, Seán, how the hell are you today?
I'm good. I'm worried about Graeme. Are you okay? Do you need to sleep? I mean, do you need to develop an app to sleep as well?
It's a crazy thing though, when your body when you're bad, when your body goes 5 hours, that's enough sleep, and you're just like, no, I have more time, and it's like, no, you get up now, and you're like, thanks, body. No, it's one of these things. It's like managing time better, I think. But that whole thing of when you've got opportunities and stuff, you're like, cool, let's do all of these, and hopefully it'll dry up eventually, and then I'll sleep. No, I'm doing good, but wow, there's so many lines on my face, man. Can we put a filter on my face? Can we maybe just bunny ears or something, or actually put me in a Star Trek uniform?
We shall soft
There's got to be a
focus you.
filter for this.
Yes, plenty of Vaseline on the lens, and nowhere else.
Vaseline is always good, however you use it.
Yes, of course. Okay, moving on. So it's all gone Pete Tong already, guys. Seán. Wow, it is an absolute honour. First question that we've got for you is, where did your love of Star Trek begin?
It's 100% my dad's fault. It is like 100% like, Paul Ferrick, you know what you did. So when I was like, so this now stretches, it's now gone back before my memory kicks in. That's when I started being a Trekkie, because that's how small I was when Trek was on at the house. So at the time, I am of a certain age, so the Next Generation was still airing. And reruns.
Was it after The Simpsons?
It would have been, because I vividly remember Who Shot Mr. Burns.
Spoilers.
So yeah,
the same timeline as me. It's that thing of come back from school, watch The Simpsons, then Next Generation. Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sky One.
Yeah. Oh, BBC for me. I was poor.
Oh, BBC. Oh, fancy.
My family didn't have Sky One. We had to make do with like a box with some nails in it and just pretend we saw what was on TV.
Hey, that's grand. That's still better than Code of Honor. So so Dad just, Trek was on all the time. TOS was doing reruns on BBC, so I watched all of TOS then, as kind of before I started to notice things like, but I can see the strings, things like that. This is all pre-remaster. And then like I know I was watching Trek because I remember vividly 1994. My dad says we're going to the shop, and I was like, grand, hopped in the car, drove to the shop, and the shop happened to be beside the cinema. So I was there, just again, clear memory of this. I was like, I'm going to go to the cinema and watch Starship Generations. And he then proceeds to pull out 2 tickets and says, yes, you are. And I was like, well played, Dad. Well played.
This is non-negotiable, son.
It was quite good. But I remember that so well that I remember the cinema at the time was underground. So we went down into the cinema, and I remember seeing the theatrical poster of Interview with the Vampire, and it scared the crap out of me. The things you remember
wigs weren't that bad.
Yeah.
Like,
sorry, I have a lot of love for that movie. Also because I remember looking like, why is Kestra Troy eating that maid? I'm very confused right now. I should not be watching this at this age. And little did I know, years later I would revisit and be like, oh, I get it now. Oh, I really shouldn't have been watching that at that age. So sorry, my long story medium. It's just like, in a way, it's always been around. So I've always been a Trekkie, and sort of just, I don't know. But when I was a teenager, it was cool to be like, no, I don't know, yeah. I kind of went away from Trek for a while, and of course, I'm wearing my little Buffy necklace today because I'm not sure if either of you are Buffy fans.
Yes, 100%. We've recently just done a Buffy podcast.
I just did that, didn't I?
Yeah. Huge Buffy fans at Nerdy Up North. Absolutely.
Excellent.
I think it's scary though, like how much you like. I was rewatching it, just random episodes to remind myself, and then immediately just go, "Oh, I know this entire season," and just being like, "Wow!" Like all the names I'm never remembering about people, bumping into them, and all of the important information I'm not remembering, but I can remember exactly what happens in Buffy season 6, and you're like.
I was just before we came on this, I was just working, scrolling through Twitter, and someone posted just an amazing tweet. It's so we are recording this on the 12th of May. It is 25 years to the day since Buffy Summers invented the slow motion run in Becoming Part 1, just where she runs to the library. And I went, I vividly remember watching Becoming Part 1. And again, talk about being too young to be watching what we were watching.
It's fine. It didn't affect us whatsoever.
No,
of course not.
It is one of those weird things where you're like I remember my brother showing me the movie Predator when I was like 8 and just being like, that was not a thing that should have happened. But it's like going, oh, this is pretty horrible. But it is becoming the end of season 2, isn't it?
It is indeed,
and
yes.
Angel gets stabbed, and I always went like, and it wasn't until I rewatched it recently that I was like, can't she just not stab Angel? Like, can't they just draw a little bit of blood and then that'll be fine? But I don't know. But yeah, that's a weird one where Spike chokes Drusilla out, and you're like, but they don't breathe, and I'm like going, okay. I'm way too cynical to watch TV anymore.
Yeah, and like the amount of times as well, for whatever reason, Angel will be out of breath. You're like,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just simulating it for your benefit.
You know what's happening at the moment? All the viewers are just sitting there going, oh, damn. Oh, damn. And we are just ruining Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a legion of hardcore Buffy fans now. We're just like, yep, they don't breathe, guys.
It's fine. We can also do this. Sound doesn't exist in space, right?
Yeah. That's it. It's literally.
But come on.
Ruined Star Trek.
In Star Wars, it's all of the pilots just making the noises.
Yeah.
So it's just them being like.
Firefly was the only show that was like, no sound. No sound in space. Equally as terrifying, though, when there's no sound in space.
Yeah.
That's true. And I say this, I loved Firefly, but look how well it worked for them.
Oh, shot across the bow. You are coming in hot.
Crusher shot across the bow thing. That was.
Yeah, a lot's changed in 20 years. Right. My goodness. Whew. Wow.
I
Oh
don't know
my.
whether to be shocked or yell Dabo after that, but no. I think that's amazing though that like you got that it was like a relationship with your dad, Trek. Like it was this wonderful bonding thing with it, and I think there's something really beautiful about that. Like, is he still into it?
He is like so. He's really enjoyed the recent episode or the recent season of Picard, because I mean it was a complete nostalgia trip. So as a Trekkie for however long, he really really enjoyed it, and he's been watching Discovery and Stranger Worlds and everything, and he's enjoying it. I am the one that has dangerous obsession levels.
No.
That one's all me.
No.
As he says himself, he's like, John, I like the TV show. Like, calm down. And I'm just like, yes, but did you know that they changed the warp scale between the original series and the next generation? And he's just like, no, Sean.
This is what Goodwill is, because I'm literally just here, someone who enjoys it, has random knowledge about it, and then Goodwill's like, here's how the timelines work, here's how the star dates work, and I'm like, oh, I did not know any of that.
Yeah, I'll sort of be sat there going, yes, but did you know that the space frame of the old Titan in the Lunar class was integrated into the Neo Constitution 3? And Graeme's just sat there going, But at least the viewers
I've
appreciate
already opened Grindr. That's it. It's literally, I'm just sitting there being like, oh, right, okay, yes.
Yeah, so I absolutely understand the dangerous, I wouldn't even class it as dangerous, but the intense levels of obsession that you have for Star Trek. It's one of those franchises, as like others, where you can never go too deep. There is always something to explore. There is always something to learn. For me, starships. So it's just like, hello, do you want to talk about the starship development in the 2290s? No, where are you going? Bye. That sort of conversation normally happens every now and then. But so Generations was your first foray into the Star Trek movies?
In the cinema, yeah, I was alive for Final Frontier and Undiscovered Country, but I don't think my dad was able to convince my mum that to bring me to see Final Frontier, which is probably good for everyone else in the cinema. And then when it came to Undiscovered Country, I would have been like, there would have been the slightest kind of noise on screen when you would have had this toddler.
I think me and you are the same age, so we would have been about 4 years old. So a 4-year-old seeing pink blood floating in the vacuum of space might have been interesting, to say the least.
And then like the blue alien, is about to beat the tar out of a Kirk, and you're kind of like, yeah, it's fine.
Why does he fall down when his knee hurts?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I mean, yeah, I remember I had to boo-boo on my knee once. And, kind of, that's not what he had on his knee.
Yeah, that's not what it was. No. Not everyone keeps their genitalia in the same place. Smokes. What a, yeah.
Little did we know how true that... Anyway, that's different.
Yeah. Wow.
So in terms of the cinema, that was my first foray. And I know I watched the movies completely out of order because I remember... I don't remember when I watched Motion Picture for the first time. I do remember being confused as to why the Next Generation theme was playing during the motion picture.
Yeah.
So I was like, hang on, wasn't that... And even I mean, maybe this is an invented memory, but I think I remember going, but this was made before the Next Generation. So why would the Next Generation... Idiot me, not going, well, maybe it was written for the film, Sean, as opposed to being written for the Next Generation, which came along 9 years afterwards.
But you don't think about that.
Do you think though? Like I was talking about this with a friend the other day about how crazy it is before the internet. When nowadays, I was finding out, I was rewatching bits of Voyager the other week, and then just being like, oh, I can just memory alpha that and be like, oh yeah, they have been in another episode or they have done that. Whereas obviously in the 90s, you're just like going, I can speculate, but we have no idea. And it's kind of scary going back to that and being like, you just believed crazy stuff and no one around you cared enough to correct you or didn't know better.
But then in the late 90s, some dedicated individuals like Ben Robinson went, yeah, I know there's an encyclopedia, but how about 30,000 pages worth of Star Trek knowledge? And then an entire house length of fact files were born, where
Yes,
it
they
was
were.
and it was just soft. I mean, my spare bedroom, it's literally up to the ceiling. Like some of them, because I've got mine, and then someone was selling a whole set last year, and I was like, I'll buy it again. And it's, you just read, and it's like back in the late 90s, you were like, oh yeah, what, she was in something, and then they referenced someone from one episode, and then you go, and it was all there. That was our Wikipedia, that was our memory alpha.
That's exactly, that is the best description of it. It's exactly what that was.
Yeah.
And I do remember, and I still have, I don't have them all just because I've moved house so many times since, but I've all the Starfleet ships ones. I've kept the episode guide, and I think I kept the alien ship breakdowns because I'm a bit like, I like the ships. And yeah, like, you know, sometimes, you know, I'll just be myself, bottle of wine, a candle, the dry dock sequence from Motion Picture.
What kind of candle? Are we talking a candle slag candle, or?
No, I'm talking light the green flame candle and let's just have ourselves a good time. But yeah, it was, and it was funny as well how much I did read them.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, you know, you're kind of like, there, because there is, you're right saying there is about 30,000 pages. There is a lot of them, and there's a lot of in-universe information. Even then, I loved that bit, but I'd kind of like the behind the scenes as well. And there was a bit of that, but it was mostly written as if it was, you know, this is all really happening. This is, you know, this planet is here. And, you know, I wish this applied in all areas of my life, but in some situations, I've got a really good memory for these things. Like sometimes, you know, I'll remember something about, you know, the warp coils on a D12 class bird of prey that was retired for defective plasma coils. You know, I'll remember things like that. And then I'll go into school and be like, all right, Sean, solve for X. I'm like, yes, but that has nothing to do with plasma coils in a warp core, so I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Stay away from the real knowledge.
It was,
yeah.
But that's the thing, though, because, like I said, we're about the, I think we are the same age. It was that case of you had no internet access, you had TV, and then you had this literature, but it was, for Trekkies of our age, it was compelling. And because you're at that age where information is soaked in and then just stays there for the rest of your life, I was exactly the same. And it's just like, you would have show and tell at school. Oh, God, I can't believe I'm saying this. But you would have show and tell at school, and it'd be like, here is a Playmates Enterprise B. Can you see these little things? These are the impulse reactors. This is the RCS thruster, which produces this. Here are the warp core. The deflector dish is slightly more refitted compared to the Excelsior class because of blah, blah, blah. Everyone's fell asleep, but you're like, holy shit, I actually know. Like, I could have a PhD in this sort of thing. But again, yeah, I was the same as you, because you...
Considering the area, everyone else's show and tell is just their latest child and they can't remember the name of it, really. So it's...
Well, Middlesbrough's not that bad, it's just worse. But yeah, it was... But then you get the Star Trek encyclopedias that, you know, Mike Denise, Doug Drexler did, where it's like, here is the A to Z of Star Trek, but we're going to do it as a Bible for people in the future to look at and say, yes, you can't say this about the Klingons because this happened in a TOS episode and we don't mention the ridges. We don't talk about that. And it was brilliant because you soak it in. And yeah, the information that you learn at school goes in here and goes, because this is just full of weird, you know, wibbly wobbly, oh, well, the comm badge was introduced and dedicated to the 5-year mission of the Enterprise, and that's why everyone wore the Delta after that. And you're just like, oh, I mean, that's changed now, but you're like, yeah. And
I mean, context is everything, and it's the fact of all this stuff from school. Like, I've never needed algebra yet. You know, and you know when they're like, oh, well, you won't have a calculator when you're out of school, and you're like, well, actually.
And now you're doing apps.
That's a statement that aged well, isn't it?
That's it. You're just like going, well, actually, but
touche, then, like, Mr. Ashton.
Exactly. It's just you and your teacher lies. But it's that idea of like all this stuff. Like, here I am chatting to you, Sean, chatting to you, Goodwill, about Trek, and this is random knowledge that I just accumulated, and I can sort of
have you
at any moment.
I mean, we'll go into how you started with WhoCulture and Clone Star, but have you felt that the more you've talked about Star Trek, the more knowledge that you learnt as a child has been unlocked as you talk. Like, holy crap, I didn't know. I forgot I knew about this alien race and their biology and this. Have you found that?
There is a bit of that. Like, you know, there's the things I remember watching and learning in the 90s. But then there's so much like things like Memory Alpha is just an absolute godsend, and Memory Beta, because
Yes.
I don't know an awful lot about the extended universe because it's so big. You know, it's like you know, there are people who've been reading the books all the way along. I've been kind of dipping in and out and trying to be like, you know, so when we were on an article, be like, you know, and this is where they talk about this and this, we have a little alarm that goes off saying Memory Beta, which is basically their way of saying, like, you know, if Sean gets this wrong, this is why. You know.
But I think it's great though, like contrary to like Star Wars and stuff, where they went, "Hey, expanded universe, whatever." Like it's still kind of ethereal, the Trek expanded universe, where like as we saw in Picard, they can take elements of it and be like, "Yeah, that's canon. Okay, yeah, that's canon. We've taken that, we've done that." Like maybe not like Kirk coming back how he does in the book or whatever, where it's
You
Romulans,
never know.
or go Von. But yeah, but now they're like, "Oh well, you know," because I remember you talking about that in one of the WhoCulture episode, one of the TrekCulture episodes. But it's that idea of like, it's great that we can still go, maybe it'll happen. Maybe we'll get the Garak Bashir romance. Fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, all you need to do for that one is go on to Sid City Online's YouTube channel, and you will see, obviously, Siddig and Andrew Robinson reading the fan pen script, where, you know, there's a lot of discussion, some loving that would happen.
He portrayed Garak the way he wanted to portray Garak. We all loved it, and it's just hilarious that Berman and most people at the time did not twig that's what Garak was. That's how Garak was played.
It's so
totally random, but Nightmare on Elm Street 2, where the director's just like, "Oh, we didn't realize it was a gay film," and you're like going, were you there? You know?
Like, we didn't realize this was a gay film. All right, I'll say. So, what film were you directing?
Yeah, that's it. Which direction were you facing
during
this?
But I love as well. His name escapes me, but the lead actor from Nightmare 2. He's hilarious because he openly credits himself as like the first male scream queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was just like, all right, that is brilliant. It's owning it. I think it's hilarious. But I mean, like, you got me on a tangent now. Sorry, because
that's what I do. I just derail any form of structure.
But I love it. Bob Shea of New Line Cinema is, you know, the barman in clearly the Leather Daddy bar that they go to. But no, it's definitely not a gay film. No.
He just has a Kate Bush poster.
But this
all straight guys have posters.
But this is testament. This is testament to the execs and the suits not watching their shit. Because let's be honest, you know, Paramount in the 90s, you know, it's been well documented on Shuttlepod and every other interview. These guys did not visit the set. You know, they very rarely looked at the dailies, so they could be allowed to, you know, Andrew Robertson, yes, I mean, the whole Garak and Quark scene with the prune juice. Which is one of the best scenes. But to think that was just a filler, you know. But to you know, for that to go to the top, because they wanted to do that, and you know, it enhanced the scene a lot more, but they never came down. So Andrew Robinson was like, Garak is this person, I'm going to play it at that person. And you know, a whole host of new people since DS9 has gone on to Netflix and other streaming services have rewatched and have really appreciated him, Bashir, the dynamic, and DS9 overall, and went, holy crap, this is like way ahead of its time in some aspects. I mean, Profit and Lace, but it's absolutely, I love it. And I think it's the sort of thing I think Trek needed at the time a bisexual character, because I think that bi-erasure is a thing that's still around now. And the idea of going, hey, like, because we have Jadzia, but it kind of goes like, oh yeah, that kind of like that. But then like the idea of if Bashir was, I think that could have been a really strong, like, standpoint to have during it. But obviously, like we had with Burnham and stuff, it's
I don't know. I went off on a tangent again there. Yeah, sorry.
We love a tangent, but actually, it's very funny that you bring that up because I think so. We know obviously the first episode of Past Prologue, and Andy Robinson played Garrick as he was just like, "Oh, we're both here for lunch, but there's something different on the menu." So, and that's and then
My dear doctor.
no idea, yeah, exactly. And he says himself, he's like, it was yes, there was the kind of the directive like listen, tone it back, but he's like, but also the writing after that is it didn't give him room to play as much as he would have liked to. So in a way, he was blaming no one, blaming everyone. You know, and that's fine. I mean, everyone has come out and said the same things about it. I think where there was an issue with Bashir in the beginning was that he was a walking hard on for Jadzia, and it gets very uncut. Now, like, people, I mean, I'm very forgiving because we know where Bashir gets to, but in the beginning, it's like Bashir is not being cool.
Yeah,
and I think they were struggling with what to do with him. He was the young, you know, male. I mean, they're all gorgeous at Star Trek, but he was the young male, attractive character. And instead of having sort of a plan of what to do with that or taking any kind of chances, they said, I know, we'll have him fancy the young female attractive character, who is, of course, Jadzia. I think it would have aged so much better had they explored either a bisexual element, maybe I actually, funny enough, I think I prefer a bisexual element because you're right. Name the bisexual characters in Star Trek. I'll put on the kettle. You know,
yeah, that's it. We have Mirrorverse Kira. We have like and
possibly Mirror Universe Esri, possibly.
Riker due to opportunity.
We Mirror Giorgio seems to be kind of pansexual, possibly.
Yeah. You know? See, it's that weird thing where there's so many things, but you just like. But then again, it was the '90s. But at the same time, like Star Trek, it's broken enough new ground. Like it's.
But they flew under the radar at DS9.
They did. Ronald D. Moore gave a very fair. It was sort of it was a very inward-facing statement, and he said this was kind of specifically relating to the Outcast and the Host and the Trill, but he said basically, I know I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, mea culpa, it wasn't our priority.
Yeah,
he said it was not our priority at the time. We were doing other things, and you know, Ira Stephen Bear spoken about in DS9 as well. It just wasn't, you know, it wasn't high on the list at the moment, which is like, we look at it now and we think, but God, Star Trek, you broke so many barriers. Why not that? Yeah. I tend to be, and maybe, look, if people are very upset with the fact that Star Trek didn't, I will not say you don't be. I tend to be quite free because I'm just like, well, they were breaking so many other bloody barriers all the time. They didn't have time. I didn't feel for the longest time. I didn't feel left out until sort of Enterprise.
Yes.
So I was kind of like, come on now. I think we've kind of got past the, you know,
we're at that stage as a culture. Yeah.
I mean, there's only so many times you can have Trip in the decontamination chamber and then be like, and we're not gonna do anything with that, right? Okay, never mind.
It's just like, I mean, like, you know, kind of like, you know, Shuttle Pod 1, you telling me they didn't stay warm together, you know what I mean? But it's, you know, so, and then of course, then we get the Kelvin movies and we get the, you know, the reveal that Sulu is in at least at that point homosexual relationship. They have a child together, and then there was uproar about that because it's alternate universe and you can't, you know, just because history's been changed, that doesn't change your sexuality, which I see the point of I see both sides of the argument there. I see why Takei was upset about it. I see why Simon Pegg was just like, come on. You know, but like, again, they both have a point. Much like I did somewhere at the start of this sentence.
No, it's me. I derail things again, I'm afraid. But yeah.
But it's gotten so much better, and it's, you know, now you'll see people like, you know, oh my God, Star Trek is shoving, you know, politics down our throat. And it's like, I remember the day Star Trek went woke. It was September the 8th, 1966.
100%. 100%.
With that thing, like, I saw a meme of it the other day, and it was just like, conservative Trek viewers get out of it exactly. Like I was explaining to someone the other day, like the whole in the next generation where they don't have money and they're bartering for goods because they don't have capitalism. And and obviously the comment on capitalism that is the Ferengi and whatnot. And it's that thing of just going, well, I don't, why are you watching this if you're not
It's the very definition of a hypocrite, isn't it? It's like a conservative Star Trek fan, and it's like,
I believe in a bright utopian future. It's like, all right, grand, but run by the Dominion?
yeah, yeah. Are you Keiko O'Brien? No, anyway.
Oh, don't bring the beast into this.
We have a
true villain of Trek.
We have a theory. We have a theory, Sean, that that is yet to be revealed and should be revealed in Star Trek Legacy. That the big overall bad was not the Dominion, not the Changelings, certainly not the Borg.
No,
it was Keiko O'Brien.
Yeah,
because where.
What is your evidence? Let's give this a fair hearing. What is your evidence?
Where's Miles O'Brien?
Let's not get caught up with tangible things like evidence. Let's just go purely based upon wild drunk speculation.
It's more that Miles O'Brien would have resolved the entire situation within 3 episodes because he is, and I'm quoting Lower Decks, the greatest Starfleet officer that ever lived. But where was he? Because he would have got it done. He would have got this shit sorted. He certainly would not have agreed to fleet maneuvers. So,
I mean,
what did Keiko do to him?
I just think that it's basically he is busy. He is locked up in a constant battle with the entity that is Keiko O'Brien in order to sort of contain that threat. Obviously for the sake of us. We don't fully appreciate that he's doing this for us, but no, it's just a silly thing that I made up where we were during Picard we were speculating on what's going to happen in the series and whatnot, and like, oh, who's that? And the face that Vadik makes and stuff, like, oh, who is it? Is it going to be the Borg? Is it the Par Wraiths? Is it Keiko O'Brien? And obviously, you put a stupid option on a poll, it will win. So
it wasn't a big thing. It was a landslide. More than anything. So at least people share our sentiments about Keiko O'Brien. It's just like, Miles, you can't go to the Starfleet Academy. I'm off to Bajor for 4 months. Bye.
That's it. And he's just like, oh, what a terrible shame. I miss my wife so much. I'm just going to play out with my best mate forever and play Warhammer, essentially Space Warhammer. And you're like going, you don't seem to be struggling that much, but...
So just to be very clear, what you are saying on air is that in the Deep Space Nine Season 1 finale, In the Hands of the Prophets, you were sitting there going, Kai Wynn, you're right. You are. You are right.
Oh. Yeah. This is a very good point because I have put myself in a corner there. But God, what an amazing episode though! Because I think that's the thing though. Like, probably take it off at a tangent. Like, I was going to ask you later once we got like the initial, "Hey, who are you? How did things get started?" I was going to ask you about what your most underused characters in Trek are, and obviously part of my sort of attitude towards Keiko comes from why didn't they do stuff with her? Like, they kind of started DS9 off and then just went, "Oh, we're landed with this character," and we're like. And it's like basically she just gets brought through hobbies. You go, you become a teacher. Like, she's like the DS9 version of Barbie, where it's like, you're a teacher. Oh, you're a gardener. Oh, you're a research scientist. And it's like going, well, okay, it's going to be doctor. Then it's going to be like, what is it? Like horse trainer, maybe? I don't know. I didn't know where it was going to go in the later seasons. But Par Wraith, that was a good one. That was
that was a good hobby. Could have been the last hobby. But...
What a great episode, though. But like, it's like with Kez, where with Kez, you just go, they have great episodes, and you're like, oh, it would have been great if all of your writing had been like this, but instead,
we've actually funny, definitely about Keiko and definitely about Kes. What they had originally. Now, I mean, so originally with Keiko, we're talking next gen, but I think. More DS9 because they inherited obviously some stories from TNG, but definitely Kes as well, as they went, right, we've got really good ideas here. We have Star Trek married couple on Deep Space Nine raising a child. Cool, okay, great. There's got to be stories in that. And then you go to Voyager, we've got as they said, we got this mayfly. She's only going to live for a certain amount of time, which means you would assume everything has got to be a sense of urgency to it. We've got to live because we've really got to live. Like, we are on the clock. And then
burgeoning
neither
psychic powers as well. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, kind of psionic and everything. And neither storyline, in my opinion, were properly. I mean, Keiko probably got more with fewer appearances.
Yeah.
Now, a part of that, of course, is because you had Miles in every episode.
And the lines got deeper in every episode. Which,
good Lord, that format. It was just like, oh, Miles, were you having a good episode? And then, I could go on about Kess for hours as well. And look, no show is perfect. There is no show is okay. The closest to perfect is Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined one, but no show is perfect because you will have season orders. Remember, these are 26 episode seasons over 7 years. That's a lot of ground to cover. There's going to be a lot of ideas that are brought into that. There's going to be a lot of characters that come in and don't work. Melora would be one that just didn't work in DS9, which is a shame because in theory, like, she was a collection of tropes as opposed to a character, and that happens. It's not the only episode that did that. We had that we've had that from TOS onwards. Like that awkward, pointy-haired this fella in the original series. Don't know, he was nothing.
Nothing. Sirach or someone like that. I don't know.
That's the one. Yeah, he did. I just know his shirt got torn at one point.
Yeah.
But and that's it. And then sometimes it goes nowhere, and sometimes you get a Garrick. You get we'll bring this in. We'll do a little kind of we'll have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we're going to bring him back. So he's coming back. Yeah.
Do you reckon when they were writing it, every time they were like, how can we fit Garrick into this particular plot? And they were like, no. It's like,
he's just a
like they have a days without Garrick sign in the background and they just flip it back to 0.
It's funny because it started relatively slowly, didn't it? Because you had him in past prologue, and then it's goodbye Garrick, and then season 2, you get Cardassians, I think is the next one he turns up in. And in that second episode, he could have just been, look, we need Bashir to have an ally. They drop in, by the way, he and Dukat have this massive past together and they hate each other and absolutely think we won't be revisiting that storyline. Yeah. Oh, by the way, he's on drugs. Like things are like, holy yeah, what? I need more of this character, to the point where he gets his own 2-parter in season 3.
Yep.
And if you go back to, they didn't run that risk in the original series for the most part. And look, TV was different back then. It was the original series. It was the trifecta and the rest.
Yeah.
And as much as we rightly laud TOS for what it did for representation, for the risks it took in the 1960s. I'm just repeat. I mean, everyone knows this. Middle of the Cold War, they had a Russian. 20 years after, Pearl Harbor, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, they had a Japanese American, and of course, the entire just legacy that is Uhura.
Yes.
On the bridge. TOS in doing that, like, it was incredible. It was enormous. And then we just like to forget the fact that Dr. McCoy, who we all love, was a raging bigot against Spock.
Yeah, very old school. Very, very old school, yeah.
That's it. It's like, it's that and obviously...
Hobgoblin. Okie dokie. All right, steady on.
But the same people that all, like, complain about Pulaski for being sort of, like, basically the female, like, the female Bones. And then they're like, oh, yeah, but he gets a pass. And you're like...
Why? Oh, because it was just the time. And you're like, and then it's just like, well, actually, 1988 was so much more, developed as a time, you know what I mean? Like, maybe a bit, the fact that a woman could be a bigot in 1988. But,
well, no, we've progressed so much. We've finally got a female prime minister. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Never mind. Oh, well, we'll get another one in a couple of years.
It's fine. Yeah, let's just Shades of Grey this.
I am absolutely over the moon that you consider Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, as damn near perfect, because I will die on that hill for a lot of people about Battlestar Galactica. You can't describe. You have to say to people, you have to watch it to understand it, because it is perfect. Music, acting, visual effects. I mean, if you look at it now, it's 20 years ago. It doesn't look 20 years old in some respects.
It doesn't. So one lockdown night when I had more money than sense, I finally got the Blu-ray box set.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, just for the pure, it's been 20 years of it. Look, it'll have it. There's an intro on it where Ronald D. Moore sits there and says, we mastered all this initially in HD. Now, it might not have been broadcast in HD, but it was mastered. So it's like the upscale to Blu-ray, it just worked straight away because it was already there. The quality was there. A bit like Enterprise.
Yeah, because they filmed in HD originally. Yeah.
HD. So they did all that. So even though you've got the shaky cam, it's HD shaky cam. So it updated very, very nicely. It is a show that could only have been made post 9/11.
Oh, yes. The very Bible references 9/11 for Battlestar Galactica, and it's like, this is a post 9/11 culture not set on Earth. And it's like, yeah, but the just everything about it, the overall story, the plot, it's could only be done within that time period between 2001 and obviously 2010, because America went to war. We had 9/11. We had the July 7th bombings in London. We had torture. We had Guantanamo Bay. We had all these issues at that time that this show addressed and did it in its own way. Much like Star Trek used to do, much like the original series of Star Trek, where it was like, we're going to tackle today's issues in the future. So you had racism, you had slavery and everything like that, and it's like, yeah, and Battlestar just, absolutely. And I remember, because when I attended my first convention, Ronald D. Moore was there, and I said, I'm going to go up and I'm going to ask for an autograph, and I'm going to talk to him. And I didn't talk to him at all about Star Trek. I said, I want to thank you for making Battlestar Galactica, because it changed my view on science fiction going forward. And I was like, anything going forward has to be equal to or better than Battlestar Galactica in terms of storytelling, in terms of direction and everything like that. I mean, The Expanse for me as well is pretty damn close when it comes to excellent sci-fi. But yeah, I'm just so happy that I've got someone else to talk to Battlestar Galactica about, because no one in Nerdy Up North, there's 13,000 of you, and no one talks about Battlestar Galactica, and it's so upsetting. But no, I'm super, super happy about that, and thank God for Eagle Moss, before they did go under, for producing the ships.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've in the next room. I did my absolute best to keep Eagle Moss a business, folks. I really tried. But alas, it was not to be. One of the things that is still so impressive about Battlestar, and the fact that thank God it was on Sci-Fi.
Yes.
Like, this would have been cancelled if it was on one of the major networks. They said it themselves. They were not doing the views. And it's one of those ones that's, even though everyone was talking about, or seemed like everyone was talking about it at the time, it's one of those ones that's done really well in the years since. And then if you look at what Star Trek was doing, so you had Enterprise, which Enterprise I think has aged well.
Yes.
It came out at exactly the wrong time. It literally premiered October 2001.
On the wrong network as well.
And on the wrong, everything was set up against it. Now, they obviously, they kind of like, we have our premiere date. Okay, utopian shows set in the future. No one is in that frame of mind right now. No one. So they do season 1, they do season 2, and then, although, kind of like, I'm not saying either one of those seasons are bad. You have your standard Star Trek, things get better as it goes along. But as soon as they can in season 2, they go, and we're doing 9/11. And they do, and it's the Xindi attack on Earth, and you get everything. And it was very interesting. Destination Star Trek 2021. John Billingsley was there, and someone asked him, kind of like, oh, what did you like? What did you not like? And he went, I have to say, I didn't like the Xindi arc. And there was kind of this audible kind of like, it's kind of the general consensus as to when Enterprise started getting really good. And he said, what we did is we made it too early. We tried to do 9/11, and we tried to do basically the invasion of Iraq, and we tried to do that through a Star Trek lens. And in his opinion, he thought we didn't have the context that we have now. So he's like, I think as well, like, it was part of that. Was like he knew what they were trying to do, and he reckons they maybe didn't achieve it. Whereas as an audience member, I really enjoyed the season. I really liked what they did with it. I really liked the fact that they took the chance on a season-long arc, and they went out with deliberately, right? They went out with the most crazy ending, because they were just like, try canceling us now. All right, that's going to be our ending. Try canceling us now. And then they did. They were brought back for season 4. And vampire
ending.
Deal with that one.
Nail on in the head that, vampire Nazis. Okay.
I have to say though, I am in the minority where I enjoy Enterprise, but I didn't like the Xindi arc. I much prefer season 1. Season 1 is my favorite Enterprise, but it's simply because all of the stuff, the formative stuff in it, is what I wanted. Like what I've got a total Hoshi. Like Hoshi is absolutely amazing, and the how fascinating it is of her developing, like, the universal translator, all of that stuff. I ate all that stuff up, and then obviously when you get the Xindi arc, it's like, oh, it just works now, and then it's literally just like Hoshi's just in the background for like 2 seasons, being like, and I'm here too, and you're like,
and you're so right.
Yeah,
but that's it, and it's like that's what I loved about it, where it was basically this is the adventure thing, but then it goes a bit action orientated in 3 and 4. But then people loved that, and that's the wonderful thing about Trek. Where you're like, Discovery isn't bad, the Kelvin universe isn't bad. It's just for a different audience to the people who want this, and that's the joy of Trek, isn't it? Like, I don't get Discovery, but how many LGBT kids are there that adore it, who are like, this is my, stepping stone into sci-fi.
It is, and it's like there is now, like, because and that is sometimes you kind of have to gently remind people is that the existence of Discovery, the existence of the Kelvin universe, does not negate the existence of the Next Generation or Voyager. If this is not for you, that's fine. That's absolutely grand. There's no one holding a Romulan disruptor to your head saying, and you will watch it, and you will love Culber, and you will love Adira, and that's fine. And just in the same way, there was nobody, Vulcan nerve pinching you going, and you will love McCoy, and it's fun, and like I will occasionally, depending on my mood. Now DS9 is that's my overall, right? But then depending on my mood, I'm just like, no, do you know what? I'm in a lower decks mood today, or I will admit, with all the love of my body, it doesn't happen often, but I'm in an animated series mood today. Animated series has Kazinti, so it will always have a place in my heart.
We haven't even programmed the animated series into the Dabo wheel.
We will soon.
I totally and utterly forgot to put the animated series in the Dabo wheel. There we go.
That's okay. Do you know what? Lower Decks is doing the Lord's work in trying to bring the animated series sort of back into the public eye.
There's so many references to it as well. I mean, even direct screenshots and stuff. And it's like, yes, I mean, giant Spock 2.
That was a dark joke. That was a very dark joke. I was like, look what I've got.
Well, yeah.
It's a gift that just keeps giving, though. I mean, we had Jeffrey Combs again.
Everyone is played by Jeffrey Combs.
Everyone.
I mean,
all 3 of us are.
Yeah. This is literally just Jeffrey Combs in 3 different separate locations on the planet. Playing. Yeah.
That's another person I would fangirl. If I met Jeffrey Combs, I would just be like, I love you in Frighteners. I love you in Reanimate. I love you in DS9. Weyoun is like one of my favorite villains in anything ever,
He should play every single character in one complete series and just be Star Trek Combs. Everyone.
And you
That's
know,
the legacy proposal we need. We need to speak to.
Star Trek: The Legacy of Combs.
Yes. Every single character in one room. Liquidator Brunt. Way over.
Didn't he do 3 characters in one episode of DS9? I'm sure
Of course
there's one
he did.
that has Wayoon.
Oh, is it
You
two?
got Wayoon and Brunt in
Yeah.
the Dogs of War, and I remember is that because someone's done that brilliant meme, where it's just like, kind of like, starring Jeffrey Combs as Brunt, and someone's like, ooh, starring Jeffrey Combs as Wayoon, ooh, starring Jeffrey Combs as Brunt and Wayoon. It's just like best episode ever. It's
When it's a
maximum Coombs.
When it's a Coombs episode, you know it's going to be good though. When you see that special guest star Jeffrey Combs, you're like, yes. When I saw that in Lower Decks, I was like, yes, finally. But no.
So we need to go back to the actual questions because
yes,
we derailed this massively.
Okay, yeah.
How
How
did
did WhoCulture get started?
Yeah. So how on earth did you get started working for WhoCulture?
Applied for a job. Next question.
Hey.
No, actually, funny enough, long story medium, just as Picard season 1 was getting going, TrekCulture was sort of getting up off the ground, and they were looking for writers. I saw an ad I was watching WhoCulture anyway at the time, and they were like, "Hi, we're looking for people who know Star Trek." So I did, kind of walk in, take down the help wanted sign. I was like, "I'm here." And they were like, steady on, write us an article. So I sent them an article. They're like, oh, okay, we like that, write us another one. And then it just steamrolled on from there. The strangest thing happened in 2020. Don't know if anyone remembers. Earth closed. So
something, vague recollection of that.
That was 3 years ago.
A lot of Domino's pizzas being ordered. That was
yes,
far too much money spent on Warhammer
and pajamas. Lots of pajamas.
A lot of that. Yeah. So I was one of those people who about a week and a half after lockdown found themselves with rather a lot more time on their hands. So I was able to write more. And then because it's an online based content, thankfully it wasn't affected the way, our other jobs would have been. So that kept going. I kept doing that. And then once, Earth started to move toward being open again, thankfully there had been enough of a relationship built that I was able to kind of keep that going to the point where I was able to leave my other job, which was very nice.
That's incredible, because the videos that you do, I mean, I have to give props to you and Chris for the latest series of Picard. Poor Chris, I'm pretty sure he's still asleep somewhere.
Actually, funny enough, I was talking to him just before we came on this pod, and he is still catching up on rest. Like, he's still legitimately
incredible, because the reviews that you were putting out, and I was watching them while at work, so don't let anyone tell work. But they were coming out because you guys were knocking them out as quickly as you can, and then the live videos, it was like 2,000, 3,000.
That blew our minds. Like we this is going to sound like such a politician-y answer. I am grateful for every single viewer, because it's the people who were there from day one that are still watching. Like, that's incredible. If someone pops in for once, enjoys a video and leaves, I'm so grateful. It's amazing, right? When we were doing, so let's say for Lower Decks, which is when I started doing the ups and downs, I took over for Adam. We were so happy if we had maybe 100 people watching live. And that is a lot of people anyway, like to sit down at the same time, and some people have asked a very fair question. It's like, kind of, how did you get a bunch of subscribers at the start? Remember, there were, WhoCulture itself had a lot of subscribers. So like, that's, I often say to people, like, for people who are starting a YouTube channel, it's just like, I would, under no circumstances am I going to say that, we started from zero. We were very lucky. We inherited a bunch of subscribers. Some stayed, some didn't. Yeah. That's fine, because it is their content. It is, kind of whatever. And then it's continued to build. We've been lucky enough that we've been able to bring in other voices. We've been able to bring in other presenters. We've been able to bring in other editors, which I think has been a strong thing in not only keeping Chris alive, but keeping his relationship going as well. Like, you know, kind of like,
I can hear him crying from Newcastle sometimes. If you listen really quiet, you just and you're like, oh, someone.
He often says he doesn't have time to cry.
Yeah.
You know,
someone get that man Greg's and just.
and then like, but this one, so this season of Picard, we have our subscriber base, which is amazing. So we knew going in that we would probably do okay in the numbers, right? And then we were not prepared for how much, again, of the live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because people are at work. Yeah. People are busy. People have lives, you know? Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the lives we went over 4,000. Like, we were just like, this is...
That was at like 1:30 in the afternoon, because I'm sat down and I'm watching it, and the counter was like 1,000, 2, 2, 5, 3, 4, and I'm like, what? But you have to think, like, as it's global, half the world isn't awake, and it's like that's 4,000 people at 1:30 on an afternoon or in the morning that are actively watching, and that is incredible. That's mind blowing.
It's like we're still like, put it this way, we never expect that. So we have a fresh set of ups and downs coming for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
we are not expecting those numbers. But, you know, kind of like it was incredible. It was just like, and also it was very nicely intimidating.
I
just
bet.
Like, you know, oh my god, I'm going to have missed something in citation observations. The 4,000 people are going to call me out. And, you know?
Trekkie's calling you out on something small.
Not
never.
Not Trekkies.
No,
never
Trekkies. No.
Yeah, the two words I've come to love the most in the last couple of years: you missed.
But it's, I mean, because off the back of TrekCulture, and the popularity that you gained, you were also doing your own podcast. Firstly, you're on Crackmate, and then the Clone Star podcast.
I don't think we're allowed to mention that bit of it on here.
We've mentioned far worse. We are fine.
That was you're on Crackmate was sort of nearly time lined up with joining TrekCulture, because I liked the buzz of talking about it. You're on Crackmate. It's all about just movies. So every episode of You're on Crackmate is about a different movie. A lot of the time, in fact, almost all of the time, I would have a different guest, and they would pick a movie, we would talk about it, and I got to watch a lot of movies I've never seen before by doing it that way.
Oh, wow.
That was all just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Then, via that, I met Joseph Hurley, who is the world's biggest Star Trek the Animated Series fan. And
how did they choose out of the four of them?
That is actually they get together every year and they do a sort of like a muck time style battle.
Yeah, it needs to be the fighting style from Code of Honor. It needs to be that with a gauntlet.
No, it doesn't.
On.
No. Nothing.
No. I don't know what you mean. That's not canon.
No. Joe, who I feel bad for bloody everyone on that one. I feel bad for poor Denise Crosby as well, because she's got X amount of episodes. We can't pretend one of them doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
But also, she's highlighted like just how dangerous that like fighting cage with the fluorescent lights was, because they were fluorescent goddamn lights.
Yeah. It's like people using like sort of LED strips as like lightsabers, and you're like, no, this is not LED, like fluorescent things. You're like, this is a bad idea.
Health and safety would not write you up for that. But yeah, so Joseph is, because I've been speaking, because he's asked me to write a little bit for the Clone Star website about what Star Trek means to me, and I'm like, I've got so much, I still need to thin it down. But yeah, he is
Volume 1.
Yeah,
just put that at the beginning, it'll be fine.
Volume 1 ships but yeah, he is a huge animated series fan. But just listening, because you guys, you haven't half scored some big names for that podcast.
It's similar to like, we're just, because now here's the thing, we'll email everyone, like, I will find Avery Brooks's home address and send him a muffin basket, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because what we learned very early on was just ask. The worst thing, the worst thing you'll get is a no.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, we've only ever got like a couple of flat no.
Yeah.
And that's out of everyone we've contacted, right?
Was one of them Esri Dax?
No, thankfully. No. That was just a restraining order.
There we go.
A lot of people that can't do it will be either they're up to their eyes. I mean, these people are busy. They are working actors, you know, because we're emailing everyone. We're emailing, you know, the Strange New Worlds cast, the Lower Decks, everyone. And then there will be a lot of time. It'll be like, look, it doesn't suit right now, but come back to me. And we've just today confirmed someone where that happened. We reached out to them. They were just like, look, thank you so much. I'm up to my eyes at the moment. Can you please come back to me later on? And of course, me being me, I was like, I've set a reminder on my phone, and came back to them. And thankfully now it's worked out. We figured out a date, and it's all every single time. It's just, hi, how are you? Let's have a chat. You know what? You know, and it's obviously there's going to be the context of Star Trek, but it's about let's learn about the people who gave us Trek. You know, whether it's the writers, the directors, you know, we have, you know, Dan Curry, who created so much of what we see, came on. And we've had, obviously, then recently, Nana Visitor was on, Alexander Siddig was on.
Huge.
We never expect these people to say yes. And when they do, we're just like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then, of course, you're trying as well not to be like, oh my God, I love you so much. You're so great. I love you in this episode. Because, it's in my head. Yeah, of course it is, you know? But you've just got a way to find a way to phrase it, you know? It's like, I really enjoyed your work in this episode. Can you tell us what the thought process is? Because you were bloody deadly.
It's exactly how I was with you. Yeah, that's exactly how I was with you. I emailed you, I plucked up the courage, and I was like, I'm going to email Seán Ferrick, I'm going to email Seán. And I sent a message, and you just kept back, I would absolutely love to. And I was like, okay, great, thank you very much. And I just went, thank you so much, Seán. I absolutely
just imagining
love that,
you like a 90s like teen girl or whatever in your pink bedroom or whatever with your sort of scrapbook out with you.
The wall of bankruptcy nearly came down because the bouncing the wall of bankruptcy, Seán, is all the Star Trek ships, but it nearly came down, and I was just like, I've got Seán Ferrick. And I was just like, oh my God, I watched this man on the YouTubes and he is so funny. And I was like, okay, Seán, that's absolutely brilliant. We'll get through it and we'll do. And I know exactly how you feel, because it's that level of professionalism that you have to do in the email, but the man sending the email is screaming internally and sweating profusely and like, I need the toilet so bad. So... Yeah,
I love it so much.
Because honestly, like before we started this episode, Graeme was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "I've been to the toilet 3 times. I'm not nervous at all." And it's, but it's the guests that you have had on Clone Star. I mean, like I said, I've been speaking to Joseph. I will never ever get his name right. Bless him. I'm so sorry. I've been speaking to him, and I've asked him. You know, I've plucked up the courage and I'm like, I really love the podcast. How do you do this? And if you don't ask, you don't get anywhere in life. And it's just a case of, And he's like, he was like, you just start from the bottom and you work your way up and you just send emails and you talk to people and you build relationships. And it's, for me, getting to know you, getting to know everyone I've spoke to which is crazy. 13 weeks of doing this. It has been wonderful because I've not met one gatekeeper. I've not met someone who's like, cough, I don't want to talk to you. It's like everyone is wonderful. It is like Nerdy Up North. It's a community of people, and it's like everyone wants to help everyone wants to talk, and they all have a shared love. So there's like a passion to drive the toxicity out of the fandom, and it's like the conversations that you have, I've never encountered. I mean, obviously I've known Trekkies all my life, but I've never encountered such passion and positivity and welcomeness from everyone. Because I'm, me and Graeme.
I mean, I'm a fucking ray of sunshine. I mean,
you are
just putting that out there.
You are the most beautiful science officer drag queen anyone could ever have on their starship.
I'm loving all of this. I'm loving the love-in.
He needs a science officer uniform.
Queen. Amazing.
He needs the uniform, Sean. He needs it. And
we were trying to do it where I want like a blue science officer uniform, and they don't exist. Apparently, everyone only wants the yellow and gold.
The DS9 uniform, you can only get the really cheap one with the sewn-in com badge, and I'm like, no, it must be perfect for him.
You know what's really weird? Like, I never even thought about this, but when you were mentioning it earlier, Goodwill, I was like, why don't I just get the person who makes my drag outfits and be like, can you just make me a Trek uniform? And they'll be like, how do you sew trousers again? And I'd be like, okay. But, I'm pretty sure they haven't needed to sew trousers in about 30 years. But, like, I'm going, that might be a thing. I'll be like, I'll have this, and, science officer uniform.
I will get you your pips and your combat.
I probably have a lift. Yeah, I'll give you a lift. A list to good quality science officer uniforms.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Send us that. That'd be great.
I think I have the blue. So the DS9 grey. I have the blue undershirt that goes with that. The actual grey uniforms are quite hit and miss.
Yes.
Like you can get some I was incredibly lucky with the one I now know with the one I got. The Voyager blue across the shoulders. We've got that one as well. And then the TNG was like, I'd sort you out with you. Do you talk to me about uniforms?
Well, that was the next question.
Wearing the same shirt for the next.
The Zach Brannigan tribute shirt.
But...
That is a great shirt.
It is stunning. I want to rub him against me and then stick him to the ceiling, because that shirt will keep him there. It's beautiful.
It's the energy keeping me alive right now.
Yes.
As a gay man in his late 30s. Yeah.
As a tired man in his mid-30s, your energy is keeping me awake by transference. But that was going to be our next question, Sean, because I think you've got quite a collection of uniforms.
That's a really nice way to say a severe addiction. So literally, lockdown. I had 2 going into lockdown. Now I've got over 30. And it was just, yeah. In fact, so today I went online, and the person who supplies them has just released the jackets, the away jackets from Picard season 3, and the uniform that like Geordie was wearing when they arrive as well. And you're just like,
I think I just heard your bank account die, Goodwill.
Oh yeah, just that's like screaming in the background. That's your wallet. Yeah. The most recent one I got, this was a couple of months ago, was the Strange New Worlds Monster Maroon. And it's gorgeous.
Oh, the Monster Maroon, much like the grey uniform, the Monster Maroon is very hit and miss. Fan sets. Sorry, go on.
It's why it's called Monster Maroon. It's because it's so hard to replicate it for an affordable price. Like you can, of course you can get them, but you're talking mega bucks. There's a filmmaker who's a friend of mine, Sam Cockings, who works on Trek Yards.
Oh yeah.
Now he has a basically screen accurate Monster Maroon, and he told me the price for that, and it is more than the rent I pay on this apartment.
I'm pretty sure I've seen him when I was at Birmingham, DST Birmingham. I'm pretty sure he wore that on one of the days, and I was like, holy, like it was dot on. Like even the com badge was dot on, because the badge is very hard, because a lot of people do the mirror, they reflect it, and obviously screen accurate, they didn't have that because it would show cameras, it would show lights, and it was like only fan sets are just now mass producing the correct colour for that. So for him to do that, it's like the Monster Maroon is a huge, if you get a good one, never let it go. But the Strange New Worlds variant of that was stunningly done. Little tiny alterations all the way through.
It was so. Again, everyone sometimes asks, oh, Sean, who were you most excited to talk to on the pod? And we're like, yeah. One of my heroes is Bernadette Croft.
Yes.
She is the costume designer for Strange New Worlds. And she came on, she did an episode, and we talked about the Monster Maroon. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? So then, okay, a few weeks go by, and I am to be found of an evening having one glass of wine. And
I know where this is going.
And so I sent her an email and just be like, listen, do you have a spare Monster Maroon? Oh, do you have it? And she was like, no, we absolutely you've no idea how difficult these are. I was like, no, that's absolutely fine. And then I found one, and I literally went, I sent her an email going, and she was gracious enough again not to block me. So yeah, so it's just like, but it's just, like, there's so much good, like really good quality cosplay out there. But also, I suppose it's really important to say as well that if you're wearing a t-shirt with a con badge on it, or if you're wearing a Monster Maroon that sets you back $1,000, which is like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. And I'd be the very ones that I'm rather a lot of money into some eBay pockets, and I love it, and it's great. But that's because that's what I like to do. It's whatever anyone wants to do. Because I see a lot of people, they worry in the aggregates. When it comes to conventions, there is a huge amount of cost that goes into these things. It's like, you don't need to have the screen accurate stuff. You don't need to have the most recent uniform. Whatever you do that's cosplay to you, do it. Now, I learned that a few €1,000 later, and that's fine. That's great. At least I'm going to be, I still have them for parties.
Investment, Sean. Investment. That's what.
Exactly. And it is lovely because, again, if I put up a picture where I'm wearing a Monster Maroon, or if I put up a picture where I have the t-shirt Kirk wears, "Go climb a rock," and you get the same kind of love. You get the same kind of support, and it is so lovely. And it goes back to what you were saying about the Trek community. I like to think of us, we're like a big family, and like any family, there's the ones who you will look at each other and you'll be like cats and dogs, but you'll still look after each other in your own way as well. There is that sort of support there, and that is lovely. And then, if there's ever something, we work it out, or we airlock them. It's one of them.
It's absolutely, it has been wonderful, and it has, I mean, I won't say changed my life. It's greatly enhanced it, being able to have a platform to share this passion and to get to know people like yourself and just meet all over the world, just people who are passionate about Star Trek, and there is no toxicity about it. People like what they like, people don't like what they like, but they don't like, you shouldn't like that. And whenever you do, you just block. I don't need that. You don't need that. But my next question is obviously, what has been your biggest highlight in the past 3 years since you started at TrekCulture?
Possibly getting invited to the Picard premiere.
I'm so jealous of you when you did that. I messaged you on Instagram and I was like, I can't believe
that's what I was jealous of me. So don't worry about it. It was so unexpected. And it was myself and Chris, we got to go. It was Chinese theater. It was my first time that far west.
Really?
Yeah, and I learned the hard way. Apparently, when you go to the desert, wear sun cream. Who knew?
Yeah. As a ginger, I agree. Yeah.
To be fair, I just had a mate come back from holiday, and they didn't follow that rule, and they were lobster by day 2, and you're like, rookie error.
Yeah. So I've Michelle Hurd was so kind. She was like, "Yeah, of course I'll take a picture with you." And I'm just like,
I've got that photo running across the banner on our video, and
Excellent.
Your face, it's just like, I have arrived. And I get that, because when I did that with Brent Spino, I'm like, "Can I have a photo?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm just like, I've arrived. And but it's the joy you can see in your face that is, your happy place. You are among people. Jesse, who I adore. I absolutely adore. And just the overall overwhelming positivity, because obviously we saw your videos that you put up and you were like, oh, we've seen the first 2 episodes of Cars, we're not going to say anything. And then Jesse's like, it's a jump the shark moment. And she's like, spoiler. And but the love that everyone had, and just seeing your face. I mean, going to Vasquez Rocks, you have to, if you're there and you're a Trekkie, you have to go to Vasquez Rocks.
It was just like, it was just cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, kind of, and it was, and also I have to tell you this story. So it was myself and Chris, a very good friend Matt, who was so kind and drove us. So we were just like, Matt, we love you so much. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So we get there, right, and it's a little bit outside of the city. So it's about 45 minute drive.
Yeah.
And so we get there, and then, you know, we're driving in, and there are, you know, you're kind of like parking attendants. Like, hey, how's it going? And they say, you know, are you here for the convention or are you here for the rocks? And we're like, well, the rocks. Okay, no problem. And away. Okay, yeah, grand. You know, thinking it's quiet convention. All right, so
yeah,
off we go. We do our videos. We do our, you know, I'm getting redder and redder and redder. Get back in the car, and as we're driving out, we then see there's a giant sign for the Star Wars convention that was taking place just over the hill, and we were like, of course it is, because why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't there be a Star Wars convention at the Vasquez Rocks on the day that we get? Just like by pure, what are the odds?
Irony of all things, but yeah, I was so. I was so happy for you, because we could, you know, everyone could see how happy you were to be there. But I was just so jealous of you, because I was just like, because I'm like, I've been there, and I'm like, I want to go again. Well, I am going again, but it's like, to be so lucky to be in the Chinese theatre with the cast of Picard to see this. Yeah, I just can't imagine how you felt.
It's literally like what you saw on screen was just like, kind of like, I can't believe I'm here. This is ridiculous. I just really want to say it is directly thanks to Terry Matalas and Dave Blass that myself and Chris got to go. And like, if there's one thing that I've learned, it's just, I mean, thankfully, it's just be grateful. Just be grateful. This could all end tomorrow.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like anything could happen. People could realize Star Trek's not real and be like, we'll watch something else. You know, like this could all end tomorrow. Always try and just be like, just be grateful for the experiences you get. And because, you know, who knows? You know, maybe.
I think, though, that's why we need to celebrate Terry Matalas for Picard season 3, because that's the bolt of lightning that just basically goes, there's life in Trek. Like, you know, it's the fact of the reaction to it has been so overwhelmingly positive that, like, the idea of Star Trek Legacy, not as the specific show, but what it represents, is perfectly tangible now. Whereas a couple of years ago, like, you should have seen me on the podcast after we'd got Changelings. Like, as a DS9 stan, as soon as Changelings appeared in it, I was just like,
we lost our shit.
I didn't even have this on my bingo card because I thought it was so what I wanted, but what I wasn't going to get. And now the sky's the limit, you know? And it's amazing that we're in this zone now.
But also,
sorry.
No, it's don't be sorry. Also, Sean, you are an author, and you have done a couple of books. You've done Shadow in the Stars and Down to the Bridge. Tell us about them.
One took an awful lot longer to write than the yes. So Down to the Bridge, I wrote between 2009 and I think I finished it in 2012. And it is very much like, I had written a lot of short fiction before that, and none of it published. But, like, you know, because it's very, very hard to get published. Good luck to everyone who is trying. Honestly, hope everyone who is writing get used to the word no and never let it put you off.
Yeah.
You know, you will. So that's just. I'm sure that's old advice at this stage, but yeah. So I was writing it. Lovely, fun topic because funny thing happened in 2008. The finance fell out of the world, and so I sort of wrote like, right, what happens if this never gets better? You know, what would the world look like? And it didn't look very shiny in the book. I'm not gonna lie. No. It's not exactly kind of comedy and roses. Because anyway, I was coming out of my teens. It was angsty, of course. That's what we do. And yes, I finally finished that. And part of the kicker for that was that in 2010 I started, and 2010 2011 I did my master's in creative writing. So part of that was part of my thesis. I was like, right, write some stuff. I've written quite a bit. What would you like? So that was a good kicker to get that finished. Then, of course, nothing happens for a couple of years because writing is incredibly tiring. And then I learned about National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I used to try and do that and never got very far, but...
It's incredible because one of the... Get out the tiny little violin. One of the loneliest jobs in the world is writing. Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be, but sort of by its nature, it's a solo venture. Obviously, there's many exceptions to that rule. But when you do something like that, when you sort of deliberately you lock yourself into a community, all of whom are doing the same thing as you at that time as well, that's a big thing. That itself is a huge boost of energy. So where it took me 3 years to write Down to the Bridge, I wrote Shadows and the Stars in a month. Got it done. Now, that might show in the difference in quality. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, like, I think I wrote the history of the next 100 years for Down to the Bridge. For Shadows and the Stars, I went, what if wolves looked like crocodiles? There was a bit of that going on. But I probably had more fun writing Shadows and the Stars. Because there was that community, because this was in my early usage of Twitter. I was like, oh, there are other people in the world that like things that I like. And this was at a time when you could go on Twitter and not be hate crimed. I
can't remember that time.
It is a fading memory. It is a fading memory, but there's some of us who will keep the candle lit. Even when you've got like kind of certain billionaires who are screaming, "Didn't light that candle."
But yeah, guys, links to Sean's books are in the description below, so please go check them out.
Thank you very much.
Straight down in there. We do have some fan questions for you, Sean, because we've got some fans of Seán Ferrick and TrekCulture in the nerdy group.
I am really glad you reached out to my mum. Like, thank you very much.
Sean,
I'm kidding. She's not a fan.
Hi, my mum. Hi,
fair,
my dad.
You're lucky enough that you got one parent who tolerates it.
Yeah, my poor dad watches everything. Bless him. I don't know why.
Hi, Goodwill's dad.
Yeah, hi. So the first fan question. I'm going to be very selfish because the first one is from me. Where do you see the future of Star Trek going?
Television and streaming. I think I don't think the era of movies is done. I just think it does so much better on the small screen. Well, now it looks on the small screen, it looks as good as it ever did on the big screen.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Long form, I think will be good. Even with these, special movie events like Section 31, let's keep them streaming. Yeah. That is where I would like to see, because I think it's easier to flesh out a story, and to give it room to breathe. All of the shows at the moment are doing it their own way. You've got the real episodic nature of Prodigy and Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, even when they still have their arcs. You've got then their the serialized Discovery and Picard, and of course it remains to be seen how. I sort of have in my head that Starfleet Academy will be episodic, but no one knows yet. But I think that's where Star Trek has always done best.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it will go. This, we'll come off the recording and it'll be like, Star Trek 14 has been confirmed, and everyone is back, and I mean everyone. You've got Chris Pine, William Shatner's back for this as well.
DeForest Kelly is back. How? Robots. Okay. So yeah, yeah.
Well, this was the bizarre thing in your in the video, the TrekCulture video, where you were speculating upon Kirk actually coming back and how they do it. And obviously, personally, I think it would be the de-aging thing. I think they would be full Mark Hamill in Mandalorian, where it's like voice made to sound a bit more like it was, and de-aged and stuff. But I think we'd be great with that. I think
we have seen from the Roddenberry Vault, the Roddenberry archives, just how good they can. It's makeup, but Spock in that short video when he's on Viridian 3, because a lot of people will go, that's CGI, that's that, and they're like, no, it's just bloody good makeup and a little bit here and a little bit there. And I was like, holy shit, this is a studio making a YouTube video that has done something that looks like a major motion picture.
Yep. It's incredible. Sure, yeah, we covered that one. I was like, look at the good CGI, look at the AI, it's incredible. And then it was like, literally after, it's like, hold on, full correction here. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's makeup. Yeah, there's a little bit of CGI help going on, but I mean, that is primarily makeup. And that is just like, to me, I was watching that going like, Leonard Nimoy lives again for at least the length of this video. And that was just like, right there, right where the heart should be. That's where I felt that.
Absolutely, that absolutely blew me away. But no, that's an excellent answer to that. We've got a question from Becca, from bless her. She has she runs her own little group called Obsidian Fleet.
Brilliant name.
So she says, do you consider beta and other canon to be just as important as alpha canon?
Yes. So that's as we mentioned earlier on. Now sometimes they won't cross over or they'll contradict each other. For me, that makes it no less important.
Yeah. Because
there are episodes of Star Trek that we wish were just erased. We've mentioned Code of Honor. Prophet and Lace started from a good place, and then it was just handled. Everyone involved just talks about how we just executed the whole thing wrong.
Siddig never directed again.
But it gave us Sluggo Cola. Let's never forget.
It gave us Sluggo
Cola in a galaxy.
Exactly.
Like this episode like that. But then when you look at, I think the Destiny trilogy is an incredible story. And like, if you are looking for another mini series, make Destiny. Yeah. It's brilliant. It will completely contradict Picard. It will probably contradict what we got in Discovery as well. You know what I mean? But like, let's do a Star Trek What If series. Do you know what I mean?
And multiverse.
Yeah, exactly. Multiverse. Technically, we've already started the multiverse. We have the Mirror Universe since the original series, and the Kelvin Universe. So it's not like it would be a new thing. And I love the way Beta is kind of slipping in the Alpha canon. Star Trek Prodigy, the Breaker, they were introduced in the novels, and now we have Rock Talk, who is just brilliant. Things like this. And I mean, I've said this many times. I'll say it again. I am not complete another slave to canon. I am not going to say to somebody, you are wrong if you go by absolute canon. Of course I'm not, because it's not anyone's place to say that to anyone else. Like, okay, the Enterprise has been completely redesigned for Strange New Worlds. Yeah, I really like the original design. It's beautiful, it's great, and it worked really well in the 60s. And that's not a disparaging comment. Mm-hmm. Like that, we have to think. Like people make the comparison with In a Mirror Darkly from Enterprise, and of course with Trials and Tribulations, for DS9. Yeah, this was so much fun, and it was lovely for the novelty.
Yeah,
and honest to God, can you tell me that you can imagine a full series being done on that set today?
It just instantaneously dated when you look at it.
And that would be it, you know? Like, I think what they've done is they've done a great kind of crossover that way. But yeah, so like, if there is a story in beta canon that completely contradicts something in alpha canon, or something has subsequently come out of alpha canon that contradicts said story, I'm like, okay, doesn't mean I don't enjoy that as much as I did before, or that it's any less important. Maybe we can look at it as a multi-worlds kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, who knows?
I mean, like we've already seen, like you say, in the Trials and Tribulations, I think it is, but it's the idea of the Klingon ridges. It's the fact of, even when you get a solid wall of, we cannot explain this, you can still kind of jokily go, and that's a thing, you know?
It's acknowledging, you know, it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek that, well, the real reason was makeup, cost, money. But we'll just say, oh, we don't talk about it. Wink. And it's like, but they did, I mean, the way they did it in season 4 of Enterprise, where they were like, it's because of the augments and they injected this. It's like, okay, that's kind of a cool reason to justify why they didn't have money for makeup back in the 60s. So it's like, yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. But no, I absolutely agree with you, because if you look at Picard, even from Star Trek Online, they brought ships from Star Trek Online, because Dave Lass was like, we need ships. People moaned about the end of season 1. Who does a lot of ships? Oh, Star Trek Online. So the Enterprise F, the Edison class, and the oh, good grief! I have to have a look at my ships.
Gagarin,
Pathfinder, the Voyager B, yeah. And it's like, yeah, they brought them in. So I think as well, the people who adore the beta canon and love those games, they're like, I think it's lovely for them, because they're like, oh, this thing I loved is now proper canon, and it's wonderful. And like, oh, I actually have that ship in the game, or I really love this race that was in this book that's now canon. I mean, you look at Robert April was only in the animated series, and for the longest time they were like, that's not canon. But then Discovery were like, show me the former captains, Robert April, and then he appeared in Strange New Worlds, and everyone was like, brilliant. Like, there's so much resources that they can use in those in that media. You never need to invent anything else, really. But
funny,
hold on. Yeah. Can I read the next question out?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. This is a question from Jake, who is a wonderful member of our Nordic Up North.
Nordic Up North.
Nordic Up. Well, actually, he's got the hair for it. It'll work.
He's very Jesus.
So I'm going to try and read this in his voice, so I might get the pronunciation a bit wrong, no. Jake. So sorry, but Hello, my name is Jake. Is there any race in Star Trek you feel deserved more screen time to be developed? I am a big fan. Thank you. I think that was accurate.
It really wasn't.
First of all, can I just say, Jake, I love your voice, and never let anyone tell you any different. Species 8472.
Yeah.
I think not only were they a fantastic...
They were on our poll for Picard. I was like, imagine if the villain for Picard season 3 was Species 8472.
Like, I'm not gonna say I'm glad they weren't, because I'm really glad we got what we got. But I think there's absolutely, you know, it's time for them to return. Also, because they did a great job at the time, for the money they had. They looked really good.
Terrifying.
We've now had 20 years to work on CGI and to make things work, you know, more cost effectively. So I would love to see that. I don't need to see a big redesign. Just do the exact same, do that design.
Yeah.
With 2023 graphics. I'm sure someone online has probably done that already. I know they're in Star Trek Online as well. So, you know, as the Undine.
The Undine, yes.
I always love that, though. It was the idea of, like, we just happily call them Species 8472, and you're like, and they're like, we have a name. You know?
Yeah. I mean, the episode where one of them jumps out and attacks Harry Kim, to this day I vividly remember nearly filling my pants at that jump scare, because as a kid, you know, Star Trek's your safe spit, and then this thing jumps out, and you're like, "Huh!" And it just everything leaves your body at that one jump scare, and I was like, "Oh my!" And it was so for the 90s, so terrifying.
It was like that was as close to horror, I think, as Voyager had got, certainly to that point. Also, massive shout out to Jay Chataway's score for that episode. I still catch myself humming that theme.
Yeah.
You know, dun 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 dun. It's like, free, you're fucked. Sorry. But like,
Don't worry about swearing. You're absolutely.
I've already broken the seal. To be fair.
Do you want to read the last question?
Well, kind of in that same voice. Who's this from? It doesn't say who it's from.
This one.
It's just a fan.
This one is from the cult leader himself. Whoa. We call him a cult leader, but he never gets us to drink the punch. He tries, but he never gets it. This is from the lovely.
He can't afford the trainers. That's
yeah. This is the person who runs, owns, and has many sleepless nights about Nerdy Up North. This is from Paul himself, the lovely Paul. Hi, Paul. Do you want to read that one out?
Yeah. The Borg one.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So, okay, Sean, what is the worst race that the Borg could assimilate from any franchise? So it doesn't need to be Trek.
Oh.
Yeah. From like a... I'm trying to think.
I don't know,
this is really surreal.
No.
My Little Pony, surely. There's got to be...
My Little Borgie.
Autobots would be a bit like, a bit scary. Imagine a Borg Optimus Prime coming at you, you know? Or what else we got? Actually, I don't know, like Sauron. Imagine they get that kind of power.
Got the size of the laser
Sauron.
on the side of his eye. That would be unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, or the aliens from Alien. That would be...
Yeah. That must exist on the internet somewhere, on DeviantArt somewhere.
I'm certain there is, in the comic book world at least, I'm certain there is an Aliens Star Trek crossover.
There's been a Doctor Who one.
There has been a Doctor Who. Time Lords, that will actually, oh my god, Borg with the ability to, I was going to say, will regenerate, which they do anyway, but like, regenerate, you know? Yeah. Terrifying. Daleks! Oh my god, no. I'm going to stop there.
Queen turns into Matt Smith. Oh, okay. I would love that. I would actually love that. We do have one final quick question for you, Sean. What or which character would you least like to be trapped in a shuttle pod with? Keiko O'Brien, it has to be.
No, Vedic Barile. He was about as exciting as Gone Off Milk.
Wow, so you were just opening the airlock.
And they tried to make him sexy, and I was like, I'm just not. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm permission to make a somewhat seedy joke.
Granted.
Yeah.
I'm from Ireland. The idea of a sexy priest just doesn't really work for me.
Hey.
Like, sorry, Barile. Nothing against Philip Anglin, but yeah. So there we go. Yeah, like if I'm stuck in Shuttlepod 1 and I turn around and I hear Walk with the Prophets, I'm like, okay, fly with the space.
I have to say though, I do love the fact that Vedic Barile wins over I win, as in...
At least she'd be interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you'd never really know what's coming next with her. Whereas with him, you know exactly what's coming
Endless next. Judgment and passive aggression.
Can you be on the shuttle pod after the full brain transfer thing? After the full...
Oh, yeah.
Just be like, okay, cool. That's a bit more tolerable. But,
Brain? What is brain?
What a wonderful way to end.
Before I want to ask questions though, because I want to bring up the fact of obviously I just want to express how great it is that with you know, like you were saying about Buffy and whatnot, it's the fact of, as a gay person, we were kind of limited by what we could actually kind of enjoy in terms of stuff. Like, obviously, there was a lot of stigma attached to being a Trekkie in the 90s anyway, but it did feel like you were like, oh, you get Charmed and you get Buffy. That's the only thing you can be nerdy about as a gay person, pretty much. Maybe Angel. But like, and then the idea of there being like gay Trekkies is absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a convention for it. Well, not just Trekkies, but sci-fi. And I find that absolutely amazing. And I'm really enjoying being able to sort of be open and also be a massive nerd. You know.
Like, you're so right. There was a time, there was quite a long time, in fact, where, you know, being a Trekkie, it's funny, being a Trekkie was almost akin to, you know, it's something you kept inside. You know,
Yes.
it was a you thing. You know, we didn't, you know, the community, it was there, but people of a certain age, we didn't have access to it. You know, and then, you know, you'd hear about conventions, but that was in America. You know, that was over there. Like, we don't get to do that. And then we get things like Buffy. Although I'm well aware of Charmed, I didn't jump on the Charmed.
Same. I never watched it, and it's too late now. It's like I've never seen Stargate, and everyone tells me I should, and then they're like, it's only 12 seasons, and you're like,
it is worth. And Stargate, I like watched Stargate as it was coming out. It has beautifully dated. Like, it's just like some of those first seasons are like, wow, and I love it still.
Yeah.
But yeah, then, like, you know, it was to have something as a gay or queer questioning person. You know, it was. It was like, you know, what you had adult shows, which again, for someone of a certain age, like, you know, we didn't get to enjoy that because we were too young, and, you know, there was some shows that were being made for adult only audiences, probably with them knowing, well, it's only going to air after a certain time. So, and then you get DS9 rejoined, and although it made mistakes, TNG the Outcast. You know, there was and things like that. And you're like, did Star Trek hear me when I was wishing really hard? Did they hear me?
I mean, they heard me when they had the outrageous Acano in it, but
yes.
Yeah, that was wow. Like, yeah, I still find it difficult to watch that episode. Not because it's not good, but, you know, tangent.
So that's going to appear on the Dabble Wheel next week.
God, can you imagine? I'd just be like, well,
yeah.
So, you know,
put the sheets
how
down.
many takes did it to get through that episode? 7.
That's it.
I was going back from,
and I broke my arm. Anyway, okay, that's awful. Hey, good luck recovering from that, Goodwill.
Any more questions?
please. Yeah.
Anything? Okay, how do I segue? Okay.
I was gonna ask about villains though, because obviously we joke about Keiko O'Brien being a villain and stuff like that, and obviously DS9 is my favorite series, but it's the fact of, mainly because it has amazing villains, it has amazing arcs, and it gives time to the villains. Like, sort of Voyager doesn't, kind of. Voyager has like Seska, and then it kind of goes, oh well, she's dead now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, it's the Borg, but then in for like 4 episodes. Whereas DS9 has these lingering threats throughout the whole thing, like the way that the Borg kind of are in TNG. Like, but who's your favorite villain throughout all of Trek?
Dukat.
Like, who?
Straight
Dukat.
Yeah. Yep. Easy. There's no, for me, like, if I'm ever given the greatest villains of Trek, he will come in at number 1, and it's for pretty much the exact reason you said it. We had time with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
We saw multiple facets, and we saw how amazingly Mark Alimo played him. But also, by the time we get to season 6, Waltz, and he goes full, like, right, this is it. This is my true face. It's so earned that it's quite. I don't think it's an underrated episode, but I think it is a moment that doesn't get talked about enough when he goes, if it was up to me, I would have burned Bajor to the ground.
Yeah.
And it was just like
seeing that
you
face
cannot
fall
come
off.
back from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you cannot. At no point from that point on can you go, I can still find something in this character. Whereas Tora Zial was the one thing up until obviously her death that maybe while he was still had signed up with the Dominion, still was, let's rule the Alpha Quadrant, you thought maybe he's got that little bit of emotion in him, something could come back. And then no, she was actually his last tether to anything that we would remotely call good. So for me it is Gul Dukat, Mark Alimo, the greatest villain in Star Trek, closely followed by Space Karen.
Space Karen. Well, that's the thing. I think it's wonderful though that we actually get like the two, because my favorite villain is Wayoon, but it's because he's the total opposite kind of evil to Dukat, where he is literally not an evil person, but he's like, here's this task I've got to do. I will do it in the most clinical way. And obviously you get that discussion where he's just like, oh, well, the first thing we should do is totally kill everyone on Earth. And then that'll weaken the Federation. And then Dukat obviously is like, no, you need, the whole point is that they understand your greatness. And it's this total difference in like what they, and it tells you so much about Dukat and it tells you so much about Wayoon. And it's amazing that they're interacting together, rather than, we never get to see what the Borg Queen would think of Dukat. We never get to see what like Sesko would think of like Space Karen,
I that's one thing. Like Seska is a great missed opportunity.
Yes.
And I know, like, I could spend another hour talking on things that started well and ended with a damp squib. Which is, I know Martha
Hess's
Hackett,
entire run on the show. Although that final episode was amazing, to be fair.
The Fury or the Gift?
Fury. I really liked Fury.
We should talk offline because I like that you like Fury. Fury is, again, it made its mistakes, but I think Fury gets a bit too harsh reviews sometimes. Star Trek has a load of great villains. They don't always get room to breathe, but it has a load of great villains. And there was some bloke who was on, this is City Alpha 5. I don't know.
Oh, Con? Someone? Con?
Yeah, Con.
Con, yeah.
Keiko? No.
He had a banging chest, that's all.
That's very true.
Yeah, he did have a banging chest. But I absolutely agree with Dukat because he had time to be fleshed out, and then the mask comes off once that snap has happened, and then you actually it's rewarding yet terrifying to see a character that's been there for 6 years and you think you know them, and then it's like, oh shit, like he is truly terrifying. Like he does not care about any, he will exterminate an entire planet and he will show no remorse, no emotion at all in the process. And it was such, it's a villain where, unlike Khan, where yes, there's a motive for it, yes, because he's genetically enhanced, but Dukat was like, he is just evil, but he wants to be acknowledged for his greatness of being evil, and he justifies everything to himself as well.
Because he can't even blame upbringing. He can't even be like, oh, well, that's Cardassian society, because we have good examples of Cardassian society, like Kira's like fake dad, I forget the name, but but you're just going, wow, there are good people here. And Dukat's like, oh well, what was I expected to do? And it's like, be better, not be a twat.
It was the megalomania. Like you had the Enabrantanes who were bad, but they weren't destroy the galaxy bad.
That we know.
Exactly. Actually, who knows? That he could be the one that blew up the Romulan sun. He could have just left it there for a second, kind of, well, listen, that'll be one way of ensuring they don't fail me and blowing up the Founder's homeworld.
That was
blame Kane.
Yeah. But no, I mean, any other questions, Graham?
No, I'm sorry. I could talk forever, I'm afraid.
We really
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I'm right.
We really could. I mean,
But I think that's so good. Like, it's the fact of I'm so glad that this podcast came out of me and you being randomly on one of the Nerdy Up North podcasts and then being like, oh, we both like Trek. And then realizing that when the ball gets started, it's like the juggernaut. It's like this perpetual motion machine of just being, oh, but how about this? How about this? And you're like, I can't talk anymore because my body is shutting down. Like, let's.
Also, you can do 3 more episodes. Cool. Let's keep going. But no, Seán, thank you so much for coming on to Star Trekking. You have no idea how much it means to me, means to Graeme, means to everyone at Nerdy Up North. You have made my year doing this. You are an absolute pleasure. And I want you back on because I just feel I can just talk to you for hours about all things Trek and Battlestar. If I ever do a Battlestar podcast, I need you on.
I want to be on another episode because I have to sit there and go, all of this has happened before and it will happen again.
So say we all.
Okay, how about if we roll Code of Honor for the Dabo wheel?
How about I just create...
That'll soften the blow. It'll basically you being like, oh God, it's this one. But then we'll also be like, but we can get Seán.
I'm just going to create a new series called Battlestarring with Nerdy Up North. And the great thing of it, it's going to be like 12 episodes, and then it's just going to start again because that's the cycle of time. So it'll just be the same thing again and again, and at the end, everything will just get nuked because that's just how it all ends. But no, if we ever do a Battlestar Galactica episode, Seán, I would absolutely love to talk to you about that because it needs love, it needs recognition, and we have a whole host of nerds that we need to sit down and go, please watch it and appreciate perfection. So, but no, I'm absolutely over the moon with that. Guys, this has been Star Trekking with Nerdy Up North. It has been an absolute hoot and a half. I cannot tell you how buzzing I am. I don't think I'm going to sleep for the rest of the week now. Next week, me and the lovely science officer Cyanoid will be reviewing the Voyager episode Flashbacks, which the double wheel of episodes decided. Another link to Picard.
Which is crazy. Another link to Picard.
Another link to Picard.
Although I was watching Voyager the other day and wow, Tuvok is one of the best characters in all of like Trek for me. He is so good and it's this perfect example of a fan just nailing it. You know,
Tim Russ is amazing.
Sorry, that's my Tim Russ fangirl moment.
Well, he is.
But,
he is.
I'm seeing him in Picard and being like, the character I wasn't expecting, but I'm so happy.
So, guys, we'll be reviewing that next week. So the shelf of mild bankruptcy will not change because we have to have the Excelsior on show. I might have to change the batteries though. It's looking a bit dim. But yeah, so we'll be reviewing that next week, guys. In the description below, it's going to be absolutely huge. You can follow Seán Ferrick on Twitter. We've got WhoCulture, we've got TrekCulture, we've got WhoCulture. We have got the Velvet Snatch himself.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello, Daddy. You can follow Cyanoid at the Velvet Snatch, the girl podcast. It's all going to be below.
Yeah.
That's
crazy, isn't it? Like, and also Twitch. So,
it's all down there, darling. It's all down there.
I don't know what you've put in it, babe. It could be anything.
Well, that shows how you don't look at our videos, then, isn't it?
Well, you know, I don't really do a visual medium anymore. Do I? Yeah.
We have got Cyanoid's Twitch. We've got the Velvet Snatch. We've got the Girl Podcast in there. Please, he is one of the hardest working people in the northeast of England. He doesn't sleep. He regenerates in an alcove. I'm convinced of this. There is a Borg.
That suggests I have high technology in my house, and I don't.
No,
I'm using
no.
like a 5-year-old TV.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we might have to get poor Chris into this alcove if it's in Newcastle, just in case, because bless him. I felt like saying, "Do you want some Greggs?" But if you want to follow, what do you mean? If you should follow Nerdy Up North on everything below. We have a wonderful Facebook community where we pride ourselves on taking the toxicity out of fandoms. We have just been recently featured in a local Sunderland paper and local media. We've been on the BBC, don't you know?
The BBC.
The BBC, the Bubaka, with the wonderful Sammy. We are on Facebook as a community, Facebook as a page. Obviously, we have a YouTube. If you haven't already, smash that like button. I hate saying that. Why did I say that?
Smash that like button.
Please just touch, caress, breathe on the like button if you don't mind. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. The tiniest little things that you do, guys, do help out the channel. We are nearly, I think we're nearly at 1,300 subscribers, which is just, it's insane.
It's too many.
It's
I
too
keep
many.
saying it. We need a cull. We need some kind of like, you know, battle royale between them. That's what we need.
Yes, of course. We also
This is why I'm not allowed to make decisions.
We also have the Nerdy Up North Twitter page, which I run with Paul. So if it's me, come and say hello. I'll be like, hi, I'm the Trekkie. I also have my own Twitter, Goodwill None. I also Twitch as well. I should be twitching next week.
You've been sat down too long, Goodwill.
I've been sat down too long. I had a break this week, but I will be back on Twitch next week, continuing my Uncharted playthrough with my unicorn hat and many, many inappropriate redeemables. So God help me through that episode. Guys, thank you so much for today. Graeme, Sean, I love you both. I will see everyone next week for the next episode of Star Trekking with Nerdy Up North. Take care, everyone. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.